Hello, smelly people. Welcome back to Making Sense Make Sense, the podcast that's all about demystifying the world of fragrance. As always, I am Thomas Dunkley, I am your host, and it is my mission to make sense make sense. Doing so by speaking about fragrance in an accessible way without gatekeeping or snobbery. To put it honestly, I'm here just to have a bit of fun and hopefully help you navigate this wonderfully fragrant world. Now, today's episode is all about collaboration. After all, fragrance development is a creative process. And more often than not, there are a number of people involved in that process. You have the brand who are forming and shaping the concepts, then briefing those to the fragrance house or fragrance houses in some cases. Then there's the evaluator who's there to translate what the brand wants to the perfumer, who is then creating the formulas. It's rarely a process that's worked in silo, and I'm sure there's, many other people involved. In today's world, it's not uncommon for more than one perfumer to work on a project. Many fragrances are actually created by 2 or more perfumers, and some can even have as many as 4 working on the project. I don't know about you, but I've always wondered how that works. Do the perfumers each take a certain part of the formula, perhaps a specific accord, and then just work on that on their own? Or are they working in tandem on each line of the formula? I suspect it's different for each project, but it's something I was keen to explore with today's guests. So today I'm speaking with 2 perfumers about their collaborative process. They are Julien Rasquinet and Paul Guerlain. Julien works for CPL Aromas and has created a wealth of fragrances for brands such as Edition de Parfum Frédéric Malle, Creed, Lancôme and Valentino. And Paul, who is, as you may have guessed by his surname, a member of the famed Guerlain family, is a perfumer at IFF and has created fragrances for brands like Maison Crivelli, Rabanne and Rocha. So you'll have smelled their work, no doubt. They are both quite prolific perfumers, both very, very talented as well. Together they have created Lustre, a fragrance for Omani perfume house Amouage. And Lustre is part of a new collection of fragrances that Amouage is calling the Essences. There are currently 3 in the collection, the others having been created by Bertrand Duchefort and Cécile Zerokian, and each is inspired by the concept of time, representing the past, present and future. Now, what makes this Essences collection unique is actually a number of factors. Each fragrance is poured at an extrait concentration of 30%, which means 30% of perfume oils, which is, high. Then there is a double infusion process where each fragrance was macerated in a stainless steel barrel with Australian sandalwood chips for a period of 6 months. And the bioethanol that was used in the fragrances was also aged in oak barrels for the same length of time. So this results in 3 really unique fragrances that really capture a specific moment in time, having taken time itself for them to get there. It's an interesting idea, and I speak to Julien and Paul about how they interpreted this unique brief, as well as how they worked together to create such a beautiful fragrance. It's a fascinating insight into the world of creative collaboration, I have to tell you. But before we get to that interview, you'll notice that I don't have adverts or sponsors for season 1 of this podcast, which means you get a nice, uninterrupted listen. I do, however, have a tipping service if you'd like to support me and the running costs of the podcast. You can do that by going to coffee.com/making sense make sense. That's ko-fi.com/making sense make sense. I really appreciate all of your support. Right, that's all of the housekeeping out of the way. Let's not waste more time and get right to the good stuff. This is Making Sense Make Sense with perfumers Julien Rasquinet and Paul Guerlain. Julien and Paul, thank you for joining me on the podcast today. It's really exciting to have you both here to talk about your recent work for Amouage. Julien, you've worked with Amouage a number of times before. What's unique about working with the brand?
The unique thing of working with Amouage is first the unlimited budget that you have, then the creativity of its creative director, Renaud Salmon, who is really pushing the boundaries. From the very beginning, he started at Amouage until now. Everything he has done is a great achievement. So collaborating with him is a great learning also.
And Paul, this is your first time working with Amouage. What attracted you to this project specifically?
It's all about relationships. So it began with Julien, and thanks to Julien, I met Renaud, and we started a relation, like this. And it's also a bit like my vision of perfumery. You need to have a dialogue to meet people, and this is how it started.
And I suppose that's one of the interesting things is when you're working as a perfumer, a lot of the time you're working on your own with the brand, maybe with an evaluator in between. Do you find it interesting or different working with another perfumer on the project?
It really depends who you are working with, because you can have collaborations with other perfumers, and if you don't really get along or don't have the same common language, don't see the same things in what you're smelling, it can be a bit difficult. Also, if there's not too much ego, it's much easier, because you have to have that ability of questioning yourself when you're working with someone else, to judge his work and your work to be judged, and to discuss how we can improve. So it requires maybe we can say a bit of intelligence.
And I'm assuming by the fact that you're both sat here today that the egos were in check and you both got along just fine working on this. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was super easy to work, and on all the other projects we've been working on. I think that's why this relationship with Julien is very special also, because as he said, I think we don't have ego in our creative process when we are working together. Because for sure you need ego when you're creating. Am I right, Julien?
Yes.
And so the idea here was just to challenge ourselves and learn from the other. And I think that what make also the perfume slightly different and unique in that way, because it's a real collaboration, and to make it even better.
And Julien, you mentioned about the common language. Is that something you had to find, or was it there from the beginning?
I think it has to be there from the beginning. It's not something you can, maybe you can work on it, but it's something that has to be natural. Like as you mentioned, in many projects, we are working with evaluators, and we are working with creative directors, and there are some evaluators or creative directors that are very talented, for which I really respect the line of work they have done. But then I noticed that when I work with them, it's not as easy, or with some evaluators, it's easier than with others. So it's really like friendship. You don't control why you became friends with such or such person. But you just notice that something gets along well.
So it's the relationship has to be there from the beginning to build that language up.
It needs to be natural.
Yeah. So that it's not forced, because that would come across in the creation in a way, I suppose. It would impact.
Yeah, so sometimes it happens during a project, and you have to deal with. But it makes the creation different in the way that you are not always working together. Each perfumer are working on their side, and then you meet. But here it was really we were checking each line of the formula, questioning ourselves if it was the right ingredient, the right place. The right source also, so it's different.
And the fragrance you've created together, Lustre, is part of Amouage's new Essence collection, which is a really unique olfactory project that pushes the boundaries of creation in really exciting new directions. So each fragrance is highly concentrated at 30% and has undergone a 6-month aging process. And I've heard Renaud, the Amouage Chief Creative Officer, say that he doesn't brief perfumers in a traditional way, and this isn't a conventional project. So what did the brief for this fragrance look like?
So we knew that the idea of the project was to talk about time. So Renaud told us that there would be a very long process of maturation, and also a double infusion. Maybe we'll come back later on that topic. And also we knew that he wanted to have different perfumers working on different times. So Bertrand Duchaufour worked on the past with Reasons. Cécile Zarokian worked on the future with a perfume called Outlands. And Paul Guerlain and I worked on Lustre, and this is about the present.
And thinking about the concept of time, when did the project start? When did you first start working?
Long time ago.
Yeah, maybe 2 years before it launched.
Okay, wow. And one of the things I want to pick up on is we've talked about it a little bit, but it's around the creative process for perfumers is something we talk about a lot. But we don't often talk about how two or more perfumers work together to create a fragrance, and that's quite common. It's not unusual. Can you talk me through how you approach working together to create the formula? Are you both working on it together, or are you taking separate accords? Or
First of all, the co-creation was not imposed by anyone.
okay,
It is us who decided that we would want to work together. So I think that's quite different also.
yeah, absolutely.
We wanted to have that conversation together, and we were only motivated by the beauty of the end result. So I think we were able to discuss, as you said, Paul, every line, every ingredient, the reason why we would pick such or such quality of sandalwood, for example, because we have 3 different qualities of sandalwood. We have many different qualities of cardamom, and for each ingredient you can use a different quality that will express a different message in the creation. So we've been discussing all that, so the qualities, the ingredients, and then the dosage of each ingredient in the formula.
So you're working on it completely collaboratively, but you both have very different styles. So how do you agree on how you interpret the brief, or does that just come quite naturally?
I think we brought different facets of the fragrance or facets of the creation. Different.
Yeah, I think you are coming with your own taste, and you find the balance, and that means that sometimes you can change your mind on that ingredient, and it happened to me, it happened to Julien. So it's really a conversation, and it was not like, oh, I know this ingredient is good, so we're gonna use that ingredient. It was really a conversation, and we really challenge ourselves. So yeah, it was special.
It would be a really good opportunity now to smell the fragrance.
Oh, yes, sure.
So talk me through what we're smelling.
So what we are smelling is, it's a cardamom start with cinnamon, because the idea of Lustre is the interpretation of present. And from that present, we wanted to have that impression of light. So a light coming from the darkness. So we thought that the extrapolation of the contrast was very important to create that impression of light. So here you have what we could say maybe is a bit of a colder spice of cardamom, which is very vibrant, very vertical, and cinnamon, which is a bit more warm, a bit more sensual, and that contrast really creates the impression of light. And then the fragrance evolves into a more sandalwood base.
Yeah, more sandalwood, more orris. Also, you have this creaminess from the orris, and then you have the sensuality of the sandalwood. But the sandalwood is not alone. Also, you have all the ambery part, which is very important with labdanum, amber, and so that's why it makes the sandalwood deeper, even more sensual also. And again, in this ambery part, the sandalwood is becoming a bit like the light coming from the darkness also. So this is a main idea that you can follow from top to bottom.
And on top of that, the way we wanted to interpret the present is by the comforting feeling of being anchored in the present. So we wanted the fragrance to be extremely cocooning, extremely creamy. So for that, the quality of sandalwood we chose was from New Caledonia, which is extremely creamy, and it is associated with vanilla bean from Madagascar, and that association between the milky notes of the sandalwood and the creaminess of the vanilla creates a new form of comfort and of creaminess.
Yeah, that definitely comes across. It's very warm and enveloping, I think. And I really like the kind of the sort of powder facet from the orris that gives it kind of almost dusty. Almost in my mind, I'm kind of seeing like, you know, when you can see the dust particles in the air because there's light sort of reflecting off them. I think it's really, really beautiful. And one of the things that's unique about the fragrance and the other fragrance in the collection is that it contains 30% pure perfume oils. What were the challenges of creating a fragrance at a higher concentration?
I mean, it's always it's very different from one creation to another. That means that sometimes you can have a creation at 15%. And it will be better than 30%. Here, the thing is that we are able to push to 30%, and I think that we are going into something very sensual, very addictive, and you can see all the richness of the ingredients that we are putting in this fragrance, because we have like a high-end quality product such as the sandalwood, as Julien said, but the orris also. And I think as we are pushing the dosage, you can really see the beauty of these ingredients, and even more with the aging process also. And that's what makes this fragrance very unique, very powerful, and very sensual also in a way.
And that's one part of what makes these unique, is that higher concentration, but also we touched upon the sort of double infusion process. So each fragrance was macerated in stainless steel barrels with Australian sandalwood chips for 6 months, and the bioethanol used in the fragrance was aged in oak barrels for the same length of time. How did the fragrance change when it underwent those processes?
So with the oil was infused with sandalwood chips for 6 months, and so we've had the chance to check quite regularly the evolution of that infusion and maceration. And the funny thing is the process was not totally linear, in a way that after 3 months the fragrance became very, I would say, buttery, almost like a Rhum facet, quite gourmand, and then it became creamy again, and it pushed the sandalwood facets. But first, at some point it became quite buttery and then woody again. And then for the alcohol?
The alcohol, yeah, the alcohol, it's really, it's almost like if we are putting a new ingredient in the formula, and that was very precious also, and I think that's why we are working as perfumer. It's to explore and to discover sometimes new things, and here it was really a new, almost like a new ingredient, and this ingredient is thyme obviously, but it's also this barrel that is giving more woody, oak wood effect, more boozy also, and it really gives a kind of patina to the formula, and I think with the it's really like if you are exhausting the fragrance. It's so it was really impressive to see the difference between the product before and after the double infusion.
And were you anticipating what those changes might be when you were creating the formula, or was it a case of just experimenting to see what would happen?
To be very transparent with you, we didn't know exactly where that would lead. We had the intuition that it would bring something super interesting. What we didn't know exactly was the end result when we would mix the infused alcohol and the infused oil. And it was very interesting that the fragrance became more sandalwood, creamy from the infusion, and had a more toasted patina coming from the alcohol. And that combination creates something that was truly exceptional. that we didn't fully control.
Yeah.
So we had to accept that a part of that process we would have to see what was going with time.
And that is also something very interesting because today I think that we are used to have the same product all the time. And here you can really realize that what you have inside the bottle is alive. And this batch will be different from one to another because of the time and the aging. And so I think the beauty of this collection is also in that idea that what we are doing is alive and it's not like a
Standardized.
Yeah, it's standardized, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely, and it beautifully links to the concept of time, doesn't it? In that this fragrance is made in a moment of time, and it may not be exactly the same ever again. But you oversaw obviously the full process, and I know Renaud has talked about how nothing really happened without the perfumers being happy and comfortable with it. And one of the things that you did was you came together at the end to decide the final mix of, the aged fragrance, the bioethanol versus fresh ethanol. And how did you approach that decision making on what that looked like?
Oh, it was simply by smelling and with our intuition of what we believe was the best end result. So
yeah, and we were like kids in a candy shop. We were super excited about what we were going to smell and discover, and then we were super surprised and nicely surprised about the results. So it was a beautiful gift also.
And I suppose really interesting to be working on for something so long and then not being able to really see the final result for so long, because I imagine you're quite used to being able to put together a formula, have it made, smell it, see what you think about it, whereas this is a longer term project. Was that good, or was that more frustrating?
No, that was really good. But there is in each project there is a part of unknown, because there is always a maturation process and a maceration process. So that happens in any case, but it's never that long. Usually it's 2 weeks. Here it was 6 months. So that was a completely crazy idea, but we were very comfortable with that, because I believe that today we live in a very normative world with AI, and it's funny that it's at that moment that such creative and crazy projects are coming up. So to us it was very exciting.
That raises a really interesting point. How do you feel about the use of AI in perfumery? Is this an hour-long tangent?
Let's keep to the next.
Okay, fine. We haven't got time for that subject.
We might have a few enemies after.
Okay. Okay. We love AI. That's what I'm hearing. Big fans.
Okay, good for you.
So, that process with the infusion? Does it present any regulatory challenges for you?
No, in fact, with sandalwood and with oak, we know that it's ingredients that you can control pretty much the toxicology issues that might happen. So we knew we were not at risk with that.
And the concept of time is really key to this fragrance and the collection. What do you think the lasting impact of Lustre will be?
Well, that only the future will tell. We don't know.
Yeah, it's always very, very difficult to say, but I think and I hope it will change a little bit the way to buy perfumes and the way to see perfumes also, and to consider also perfume like we consider a bottle of wine aging for years and years. So maybe it will change a little bit, but then we will see if the market is happy or not.
But the sure thing is each time we work with Amouage, we see that they are pushing a boundary that will be copied, or not copied, but that will inspire other brands after. So clearly Amouage is setting trends. So we hope the best for Lustre, We believe very much in that fragrance. We believe that it has a unique personality, that it has unbeatable strength. So we believe in it a lot. But then we will see, because you don't control everything.
Yeah. So. Yeah, you've let it loose into the world now, so to wait and see. And I think what's really refreshing is obviously you mentioned they're pushing the boundaries at Amouage around the process, but they're also being really open and transparent about everything they do, which is unusual for many fragrance brands to talk about their manufacturing process. Has that been enjoyable to work with, someone so transparent and open about what they're doing?
Yeah, I think for us it's enjoyable, but for the consumers also, because I think for many people what appears very natural for us is in fact quite mysterious for many consumers, and they want to know more about what's behind the brand, what's behind the scenes, how the fragrances are created. So I think it's a very important message that Renault thought of giving to his public, whereas the industry didn't even think about it.
Yeah, because most of the time you can find brands telling stories which are not truly the truth. And here we are not talking about storytelling. It's the reality. So the project started like this, and it's funny because many people ask us and told us, oh, it's all about storytelling and the oak-wood barrels, and no, it's the reality, and it's really part of the project, and it's not only images, it's not only movies, and it's a full process, and that's what makes this collection completely unique. And when you smell this product and when you smell Lustre, you can see all the passion, all the emotions in a bottle, and that express the truth. So
yeah, there's absolutely an authenticity to it. I think that comes across.
Yeah, and it's very difficult for the people to believe that it's authentic, because when you think about it, the project is crazy, because they need to immobilize. Do you say that? Immobilize all that amount of money for 6 months. So they need to buy from us the oils, keep it for 6 months before they start producing and goes on the market. So it's advance of cash that not many people can afford. No. So anything that you buy today, Amouage bought it more than 6 months ago. So not many people can do that.
And a matter of place also, because when you see all these barrels in the factory, and it's the whole project is completely insane. So I think only Amouage today is able to achieve such a project like this.
Absolutely. And finally, just before we finish, I wanted to come back to the idea of collaboration where we started. What was one thing you learned from each other when creating the fragrance? I'll go to Paul first.
I won't say like learn, but I think it confirmed for me the intuitions I had with Julien in terms of sharing authenticity and humility also, and this is really I mean, for me it really has been a gift to work with Julien and to be able to to see all this ces qualités.
Qualities, you can say.
All the qualities and human beings, and it was really rich in that.
And on my side, I was very impressed by the will of Paul to always get rid of the unnecessary. He often says that less is more, and he wants the formula to be as clear as possible. And I believe that, how would you say that? He's imposing that rule to himself very strongly. So.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you both. Thank you very much for joining me on Making Sense Make Sense.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
What really struck me in that interview is how Julien and Paul talked about the importance of relationships in the creative process. I suppose in a world, and let's face it, an industry where ego is rife, I just think it's really refreshing to hear emphasis placed on the need for strong relationships when collaborating on something creatively. I think it's really all about human connection, isn't it? Working together, putting skills and experience together to create something. It all serves the end composition and the end result in a way. The better the relationship is, the better the collaboration. It's a really beautiful thing, and I think it highlights the best part of the fragrance industry, the fact that people from all over the world come together to make a beautiful piece of olfactory art. Now, if you want to hear more or learn more about the Amouage Essences collection, then you can go to amouage.com. The fragrances are £355 for 100ml extrait, and they're well worth a sniff, especially Lustre, which, as I mentioned in the episode, perfectly captures, in my mind at least, the idea of sunlight catching on dust particles in the air. Bertrand Duchevor's Reasons, which is another fragrance in the collection, is a dry, peppery take on woods with a slightly gourmand hint of hazelnut, but that hazelnut leans more fresh green rather than warm creamy. Then there's Outlands, the third in the collection, and I would say perhaps the boldest, and that's created by Cécile Zarokian. And Outlands is a luminous patchouli that over time becomes rich and velvety, enveloped in a heavy rose petals and swathed in soft vanilla. You can follow Amouage on Instagram at AmouageOfficial, Julien at Julien Rasquinet, and Paul at Paul Guerlain. I'll put all of those details in the show notes too with all of the spellings, so you can just head there if you want to find out more. That's it for this week. Next week, I'll be back and I'll be speaking with Ariel Weinberg and Katri Haas, co-owners of Washington-based perfume boutique and fragrance brand Ariel Shoshana. It's a really fun chat, so do tune in for that. But before we go, I'm going to ask our guests to share the fragrances that they have an emotional connection with. This is something I like to do at the end of every episode because I believe that fragrance is an emotional art form. So I'll see you next week for a new episode. Until then, you can follow me on Instagram at Making Sense Make Sense. But for now, I will leave you in the safe, comfortable hands of Julien Rasquinet and Paul Guerlain. I'll see you next time.
I would say that the first fragrances I have an emotional connection with were the fragrances that I encountered at the age of 14. So those fragrances would be Rouge by Guerlain, Fahrenheit by Dior, Kenzo pour Homme. And so those were quite fundamental in my will to become a perfumer. And in my desire to make very strong fragrances.
I mean, I would say Vetiver from Guerlain because it was it is the perfume of my father, and when I woke up in the morning and when I was going in the kitchen, he was leaving like few minutes before I arrived in the kitchen, and so. During that breakfast, I had like all this Vetiver cloud around me, and it was really important for me to start the day. And then there is a Dior Homme, which is really important to me also because of the use of the orris and the sensuality of this perfume, and I think it's a perfect execution. It's probably one of the best fragrance for me. And then I would say, I mean, again, it's Guerlain, but it's L'Heure Bleue because it's the perfume of my wife, and so it's quite an important one.